how do you use Ratatoskr and the rest of the Astra Mythics? We're going to go over team comps, builds, refined schedules. At the very end, we're going to go over how we see things rising and falling and who you really should be looking to invest in. But let's talk a little bit about the rankings. We're going to go over this real quickly, but I'm looking at power level, utility, and longevity. I think all of these are important to look at Astra Mythics and how they rank in all modes, not just in Aether raids. Looking at Ratatoskr and this wall of text, this is a high speed unit with fairly high attack and high defense and medium res. This is a good all-around Gen 8 stat line. Cavs are getting more stats, but not as many features. We're going to talk about those in a second. Right now, the thing you should really be focusing on, though, is this Divine Vein Green. If we look at the skills itself, and I'm going to briefly go over this. This is very much a hit and run type build, but without piercing, it's going to be hard to use this unit. You can always support her with someone like Alir, but for the most part, if you remember the old hit and Reginn strategies, this will be hit and rat or something weird like that someone will come up with. But Divine Vein Green is really what you're zooming in on here, and the Warp Inhibitor and the Guard are both very good. The thing that you need to remember is that these are terrain effects and can be overwritten. It's a lot of fun. So as far as the roles, I really like her as a melee frontliner best, and you're kind of seeing it in this replay that I've got here. I think this is the prototypical Ratatoskr team comp. What she's being used as here is kind of a hybrid between a pure support unit and a melee frontliner. We've seen this over and over again. Our units have to do more than one thing right now. The reason I've purposely paired her with Corrin is to notice that I am choosing the Warp Inhibitor over the damage reduction. Now that in some cases might take some creative play if this is your unit. If Brave Corrin is your far save, then you're going to have to be looking around that a little bit more. The other thing to bring up is that any enemy team that has things like flamed mirror or stuff like that puts down the flamed terrain, understand that will overwrite what you have. But this is an important piece here. You notice this is a high threat range team that has a much lower threat range now because I've taken away warping, and Hanoka in general is definitely hurt by this more than any other unit as a defense unit. This is kind of the go-to defense that you're seeing across the meta right now, and we've seen a major hit to it in Astra season. Keep that in mind. It makes for some interesting things. Hanoka by no means is a bad unit, but definitely lost value because of that. Let's take this and go over some builds though. Looking at where you're going. Now, I had the melee frontliner shown with just base kit, and understand with her base kit, Ratatoskr is very good. This is another concept with that frontliner that would put her in summoner duels, and the way you would do this is with some sort of Catria ball, and one of your first moves would be to jump in front and drag a unit forward with drawback. Doing that would create a very wide range that you would have plenty of space to do this Warp Inhibitor on. Just understand that takes an action. On turn 1, that would be very good. On turn 2, you would have to make another action in order for that to happen. Because of that, this is more of a Summoner Duels S as opposed to a Summoner Duels R unit. I do think she's going to be very good in that context. I think she's going to be able to take out a lot of the nukes. The reason I don't have her here on a cav line is because I don't think she has enough to break through other units, and she just doesn't have enough going for her for that. Cavs take some very specific skills, and threat range is the biggest thing for them. This unit doesn't really enhance that, and so she kind of stays in the background, although she could be used in that as well. As far as pure enemy phase support, and again, I really like her base kit. I should have mentioned on the frontliner, Counter Roar 4 for Summoner Duels is fine. I do like Beast Sense 4 better because the number one melee unit that you will have to tank every single time is Freyr. And Freyr has that automatic double, and when he gets a double, he normally hits very hard with it. So Counter Roar 4 is great for a Summoner Duels build, not for an Aether Raids build. That's the summary there. Really, her base kit is very good, and you could just stick with that. back to enemy phase support. I've got this to where she more gets the guaranteed attack and speed, which is nice. This is, no matter where you're going to have that attack speed catch 4 as long as the enemy has debuffs, which is very likely. So this is set up more as a cleanup unit, but specifically that Ruse 4, which is so good, even against teams that don't necessarily have Catria. It's still excellent in that it is providing guard and debuffs and discord and schism and summoners. It is an excellent support skill, and you're going to see it on a lot of units for builds in this section here. Understand that when I put these up, a lot of times these are just archetypes. I do think Alir is the best Omni tank right now, but if you wanted to put this with a Far Savior like we just saw in the replay, or if you wanted to put this with another unit like Lucia or anything like that, that is just fine as well. This is more telling you the types of teams that these could go on. As far as Arena, score of 758 is not bad at all and definitely usable. I think this would be an incredibly fun unit to use there. Understand that for Cavs, you do have a lot of trenches. That's not to say you can't use them, but it means their movement isn't as good as you would be using. Still, this is an excellent unit. But next up, we have Veyle, who is before this was our most recent Astra Mythic, and she is an excellent unit with a lot of power behind her. Let's go over exactly what you're getting here, though. You can see the stat line where they pretty much dumped defense, which is weird. I would have preferred they dumped more speed as well and just gone full attack and res, but you get what you get sometimes. This unit still, again, this is another one where base kit is good, but there are some improvements you can make. Let's look at the preference weapons, though. Looking at Obscurite, we have a lot of true damage and lull attack res, which is excellent, but Resonant Blaze and Shields as a supportive skill cannot be undersold. There's nothing you can do to stop it short of cleansing debuffs, or cleansing bonuses rather, with Thorr. That is rare in Aether Raids, but is definitely a thing that could happen in Summoner Duels. Understand that is only a one-turn thing, though. As far as Fel Protection, you get the attack res buff, but you also get damage reduction to the unit and the units around them based on Veyle's res, which is excellent. And Scowl, we have talked about how amazing the skill is, and now it is on a unit that you can give out. That is incredible. Let's look at some builds, though, and just where you would use this unit. And the first up, now I've got the standard Catria ball here for Summoner Duels, but understand there is something special going on here with Veyle and Femortis. I have yet to decide if this is a Summoner Duels R thing. I do know in Summoner Duels S, this is an incredibly powerful pairing. These two together really complement each other. Pretty much it is kind of in the same way that Marth and Maria complemented each other so well. Understand that units that have something special about them but aren't exactly at the tip top of the meta, if you can combine them with another unit that has something special, sometimes they can create more than the sum of their parts. And this is the case here. You can see I do have Magical Null follow-up. I think she is fast enough to get doubles with this depending on the unit, but particularly against Far Saviors, which a lot of what you're going against is going to be that. I think this is a very good build. Stillwater 4 honestly is probably her best A skill and something you should be looking for regardless. It really plays into her Fel Protection, which looks at visible res, so keep that in mind. But yeah, this unit is excellent I'm not even going to call this a stall ball. This is pretty much a standard Catria ball that just enhances the survivability of the units around you. As far as enemy phase support, I don't have her with the Ruse skill. I think she's better with that Sabotage AR, just because she has high res and can utilize it, and I like Sabotage. I like Ruse on other units on that team. But looking at this, I think Flare is a lot of fun. It's not necessary, but it's definitely something that can be put on this unit. We've got her standard attack res finish 4, although we talked about putting in extra res stats would be nice. Another one you could do with this, I've got speed tactic 3. Depending on how merged up your unit is, though, you might want phantom res instead. Understand that. But in Astra season, you can very much run Far Saviors, and this unit is so good with them. Look at the support that you're adding just to this one Far Savior. We'll talk about Elimine in a bit, but Elimine is still a powerful unit that can offer damage reduction and at least can chip away at some of the start of turn effects. Because a Freyr can't always get all of them, but when you put her together with all of these units, can be a very viable team member. And then of course we got Seiðr to stop that one annoying nuke, and you can put them off till later. As far as putting her in arena, I think this is a very, very fun arena unit. The reason I have Null Sea Disrupt is because there are some units that she goes against, like Hinoka will be there, Veronica will be there. Very, very prominent units that have counter disrupt there. And putting that on her will make her absolutely demolish those folks. So keep that in mind. 756, we've talked about that. That's on the lower end. I kind of missed the days where it was easier to use mythics in arena, and that's getting harder and harder. The next up in this tier, in this first S tier, is Heiðr. Heiðr is a sneaky good unit that is good for very adaptable for a lot of different scenarios. But you've got the high res, and again, it is a high attack because she can add onto it a lot of other things. As far as what this unit is doing, Heiðr's weapon itself is good. I mean, Omni +5, true damage, and damage reduction. We've seen how good these are on a unit, and these are things that you would try to get through skills, so they're already on her. And then if you've got a rally assist used, you get basically a Ruse 3 effect. Now, as far as Harrowing Dream goes, here is where things get really crazy. So what this is doing, and you've seen it before, you come in and rally someone and you get another action granted to this unit. This has a lot of creativity that you can use when you're trying to get this unit going. The real piece here though is the turn 1 you get attack speed plus X, or turn 1 and beyond you get attack speed plus X, and that's turn times 2, max at 8. An 8 visible buff to attack speed is fantastic, but that does take all the way till turn 4. On turn 2, you get Canto, which is nice. On turn 3, and we'll talk about this in just a second, but Treachery. And turn 4, which you're normally not going to get to except for cleanup, is Dual Strike. The joke was made that this unit was designed to take out Corner, Fallen Edel, and they're not wrong. Like, that really does feel like what that Dual Strike was made to be. Now, if we're looking at Heiðr builds in particular, this first AoE one I think is just so creative. This is a player phase strategy where you could essentially buff this unit up, go in with an AoE, and just smack things around. You're seeing it plus 10 and summoner supported. 91 attack is nuts. That is so high. That is great to see, and I have put on the plus 8 there, so that would be turn 4, but you guys understand. The other thing though is with Treachery, that would add to those stats, and if you could keep that going with also a defense and res buff, this unit would hit very, very hard in this configuration. It's tough to get away from Magical Null Follow-Up because that is so good on her, so I left it there, and actually I left it in most of these. There is a scenario where you might want to use Attack Res Tempo. That would take an external Null Follow-Up though, so keep that in mind. So let's talk about player phase support, and this is talking again about that Catch Your Ball team on Summoner Duels. This is a lot of fun because it creates an extra unit that can stall while things are going around. I have used this unit without a Crom and had enough power in the team to where I could make it happen. To do that, your map has to be a little bit more spread out. You can't really do the ones that are close together that you can get to your opponent immediately, but it is definitely doable. But the big thing here is that Canto control and then just stacking attack as much as you possibly can. This unit is sneaky good and can absolutely demolish things. Keep in mind on turn 3 that Treachery is going to be possibly clutch, although most of the action in Summoner Duels happens in turn 1 and turn 2. So it is going to be less of a factor there as it is going to be in Aether Raids, where you can actually wait till turn 3 a lot of the time. Last but not least, 756 in Arena is not fantastic. I still do like this unit though. This unit can be a lot of fun there. The fact that you can have a self-refresh like that, you cannot discount how good that is. Ask any legendary Crom user that has been using them for years now. It is significant. So where does that put us here in tier 0? We have Basically, these are the units that if you were summoning right now are good to go out and use immediately. I do like Ratatoskr. I think Ratatoskr versus Veyle is going to be depending on what you want to do. There are scenarios where Ratatoskr is better. I think Veyle has more use cases though, and so as a whole, I think she is a better unit. Heiðr is following up, not too far behind, but I do like the unit quite a bit, and I have been a big fan since her release, and that continues. Let's talk about Tier 1 up next, and Altina is here, and I am still a huge fan of this unit. You will notice since the last tier list we did about a month, 2 months ago, she has dropped down a tier into Tier 1, but I still think she is very good. Looking at her, I love the min-maxed units, and flyers have gotten so many good skills. The dropping of the speed is fantastic, and this unit has 3 preference things. So just because of that, and because of the good refine she got, there are a lot of things you can do. If you're talking about the weapon and the preference skills themselves, Ragnall Alondite has distant counter, which is interesting to think about how much value that has gained because of the fact that right now IS is pushing the meta through skill creep. But there are a lot of other good things about this other than distant counter. The special acceleration is fantastic, attack res, and the lull attack defense cannot be discounted, especially when you're taking this unit up against other raid bosses. Ashera's Chosen, Iote's Shield is great, True Damage is fantastic, and Dragon Wall really helps this unit out. All of those are good, but Twin Blades is what really brings this unit together with that Piercing. Piercing is absolutely fantastic on units like this, as if you're talking about Vantage or if you're talking about Raid Boss. Either one of those, very, very good. Let's look at the builds and the team comps. Enemy phase support. This is probably the least popular way to build this one, but I'm starting off here. I've got her supporting pretty much any enemy phase tank. Right now this is looking at a Leer, and because of the high res, again, you can run Sabotage AR and Defense Res Ploy. The combination of these two are actually pretty potent and can be a lot of fun being used against the enemy. You would like something that debuffed speed. I imagine we will get that eventually. They have just been very stingy with that so far. But yeah, this is a very good build, and I've added chill speed on there just to add insult to injury. But anyway, moving on to the raid boss build, and this is what has made her so popular. And even with units like Hinoka coming in with Counter Disrupt, I still think this unit is an excellent raid boss, and I have folks that this unit carries them through SDS. The thing with SDS versus SDR is you can look at problem units and get rid of them. Altina, for some reason, is slept on, and folks don't realize how powerful she actually is. Because of that, you get things like folks just not vetoing her at all. So you can almost guarantee that you can use this unit and veto her problem children and get away with a lot of shenanigans. She's a lot of fun. So Guard Bearing 4 was a huge boon to her. Understand that she is even the Refine is getting on in years now. So she is definitely falling and not as good as she once was, but still an excellent unit. 754 in Arena is very low, and you have to use R Dual Flying 4. But sometimes you just need a unit to help you out in some sort of score thing, like, for instance, any of the Coliseum modes. Arena Assault or Allegiance Battles, anything like that. Even Mjolnir's Strike. Yeah. So if you need her in some kind of scoring mode, I don't think this is a bad thing to do to your plus 10 mythics. Again, because the game is designed around them, they have places where you can specifically use them where no one else can do. Next up, I know it's crazy that I have Altina over Plumeria. I just think that we are in a world where we have enough supportive units that this unit is not as amazing as she once was. As far as what this unit brings to the table, we have the high res, dump speed, actually fairly high attack for what this unit is. Looking at the Refine, Flower of Plenty gave her a lot of offensive effects, which I don't love, but Sweet Dreams Plus is kind of incredible. The adaptive damage in particular, that Hexblade, is really powerful on units and a lot of fun. I highly recommend using that. As far as the build on this unit, Plumeria is very adaptable. I don't see her in summoner duels because honestly there are better dancers. We brought it up over and over again, but we have enough units that are mythics now that you can go without a dancer, except in player phase teams. We'll get to that in just a second. But she is still very good as an omni tank support. Pretty much in any enemy phase support, she is absolutely fantastic. Right now here I've got Rock Slide Dance 3, which we've talked about a bit, but the ability to leave out a damage reduction in your B skill for omni tanks is phenomenal, and putting on something like the attack res tempo or the magic no follow-up, or in this case physical no follow-up. Well, sorry, in this case she can't run that, but that's another story. Depending on your unit though, those are the two you would use, and I think those are very, very good and slept on skills. So in just about any support mode, Rock Slide Dance is pretty fantastic, and stacking DR is pretty great. So moving on to this though, Attack Res Ploy is fantastic, and yeah, I mean, this is a great team. This next one is honestly one of my favorite builds, and this is kind of interesting with a 1+10. We saw this a bit on another video I did, but I can't express to you how amazing this is right here. I have, so since her preference skills aren't really doing her much here, I've ditched them for Attack Oath Echo so that she can have her own little warping in and out with the aerobatics effect, or the orders effect rather. But putting her on a Gale Force team like this is kind of incredible. What you can do is use Bernie, have that unit knock a point of health off, and then go crazy while units go in, or use Ardent Sacrifice, and then units go in, and then you can warp in, and everything's great, right? Since this unit is now on Remix Banner, she is more easy to spark, and it is not a hard thing to get this done. Just make sure you inherit all of your skills beforehand. I think this is a slept-on build though to have a 1+10 on Plumeria. We talked about it, and I can't say it enough. Dancers in Arena, I don't care about the score hit. This is great. Guidance 4 is amazing. Firestorm Dance 3 in that mode is phenomenal. I go there for and conquer, seriously. Next up is Seiðr. This is one of my personal favorites. I really like Seiðr. I think she's a very creative unit. I think there are a lot of things you can do with her. As far as what her build is, we've got high res, low defense, and medium speed with high attack. This unit hits very hard because of her preference weapon. If we're looking at that, it has Slaying, Omni +5, True Damage, Guaranteed Follow-Up, we'll talk about the benefits of that in just a second, and then Follow-Up Denial to unit and allies within 2, which is that's another one of these things that's slept on. There are a lot of units that have no follow-up in their weapon, but for secondary initiators on a defense, there are units that don't have that. So understand that that is a thing that is very useful. Future focused is definitely the highlight though, and ending an action of the closest foe in a cardinal direction is so good and very powerful. My favorite build on her is definitely the AoE one. This does take Valoria. You absolutely have to have Valoria to get this done. It is harder to get charges on Cavs than it is, say, an infantry like Heiðr. But her true damage actually extends to the AoE hit, which makes her very good. A lot of fun to use and all of that jazz. So essentially the entire team is built on making her a absolute monster. What you end up doing here is you attack in, kill the far save, you attack in again. If you've got a group clumped in, you can actually situate her so that she stops the turn of 3 different units. And it is fun to watch unless you're on the receiving end. But I'm a huge fan of the build. Desperation 4 is kind of a flex. You can use a lot of other different things. Because she has the guaranteed follow-up though, that is something that is viable for her. As far as the enemy phase support, and I've got Sabotage AR on her, I'm actually running her with the Ruse 4. I think she is one of the big candidates to be able to use that in Aether-Raid's offense. But I wanted to show some different things on here, and I know you all guys already know about the Ruse 4 Ness. Because she has high res, Sabotage AR is nice. Again, we are still waiting for some kind of Sabotage speed. But for an Omni tank or anything else, this unit is very good support there. As far as the score, 754 is definitely lowish, and I mean, requiring G-Dual Cav is painful. but because of what this unit does, it's not as painful as it might be. Being able to stop a unit's action is actually very good in Arena as well as the other modes. You do have to be situationed right, and it's not always doable because if you have two corners, it's just not going to happen. But the reason this unit is a little bit lower than you might think, because I love this unit in Aether Raids, I don't believe she has a whole lot of use in Summoner duels, and I really like for units that rank higher, I like to be able to use them in multiple different modes or just be the absolute most dominant force on the planet. Either one of those will get you into Tier 0. This is Tier 1 though. Tier 1 is very, very good. Looking at that, we have Altina, Plumeria, and of course Seiðr, and again, this is very solid. If your unit is in this tier, you should not be sad at all. In fact, most of these Astra Mythics are very good, and we're going to get into more of those in Tier 2. Oh, Elimine, have we seen a sharper fall from grace than this unit? Because, wow. I cannot believe this. We've seen, actually, this unit has pretty decent speed, and we'll talk about how you can upgrade her into an offensive behemoth, but that staff with false start, because of Freyr, has just fallen so far off, and we are in interesting times. If we're looking at the weapon, we've got the Wrathful Staff, so you'll need some kind of dazzling in the B skill if you want to use her as a combat unit. And then to allies within 2 spaces, you get a visible defense res +6, and of course false start. Holy Ground is nice. The DR equals 30%. This is basically power crept flame, and then you get a rally, or you get an in combat defense res +4. If we're looking at builds, and I had to get very creative with this. Understand, I'm going to just talk about the stabs here. Seaside Parasol is the one that grants guard to units, the nearest unit within 5, and then to saviors around that unit. And that's why I've got this unit as player phase support. On top of that, I've got her so that she can actually do some damage with Dazzling Shift and then Attack Res Ploy as well. The reason this is powerful though is because by putting guard on units that are far away, if you've got someone like Crom coming in, it means that you are less likely to see something like Escutcheon procced twice. It probably would still be procced once with Hardy Fighter, but if you go in again, then you get the full hit. That is not to be underrated. As far as the enemy phase support, Tenebaton has the guard that is ranged, so you get guard around your units within 2 spaces, and that's very good. We do have Ratatoskr, which again, we're just knocking down Elimine's value even further, but that poor unit. If you're using her with Corrin though, that means you can get both guard support and Corrin's terrain effect that has the damage reduction. In Arena, 752 is too low. Like that is my limit. 754 at least I can see you compensating. 752 is very, very low, and they need to give us some sort of scoring staff because this is just not cutting it. Naga. Oh, Naga. Both of these units are good situationally. If you go up against a defense without Freyr, which do exist, Elimine can be very powerful. For Naga, if you're going up against any kind of Dragon Savior for really any kind of team, this unit can really come in clutch. As far as what this weapon does, Divine Breath gives a visible attack +6. You get an Omni +4 +X, max 9, which is fun depending on the number of dragons and dragon effectives you have around you. You get true damage, and then you get damage reduction off first attack. That's very good. Divine Fang Plus, though, is really where it's at, giving out dragon effectiveness. We talked about that just a second ago, but very powerful, as well as the offensive guaranteed follow-up. This unit is very obviously built towards helping out a player phase team. If we ever get a Dragon Gale Force, her value goes up for sure. Like, no kidding. On a player phase team, I think this unit could be very helpful. As far as a melee frontliner, now, okay, I put this up here, and I talked about this a little bit last time we talked about Naga. You have to have null follow-up of some sort on this unit. Absolutely have to. If you don't, this unit is not going to make it. But if she has null follow-up, she takes a surprising number of things because you get a fair amount of speed from her. And with Counter Roar 4, you can tank a lot of things. She's pretty spectacular, and I am a big fan of this build. Null follow-up on flyers is just hard to get, unfortunately. Looking at the player phase support, and I think this is a lot of fun. Again, Divine Fang Plus is very powerful, and you get some crazy warping shenanigans with Wings of Mercy 4. I think this is a fun unit to have on here, and something you should look at if you're looking at doing player phase. And as we've seen, sometimes our mythics choose us. And so if Naga has chosen you, this is a way to go with your player phase team. I actually like this unit in Arena, and I use her fairly often. At 756, I think she's fairly good. I do have Dragon's Wrath 4 here. Understand that I like Counter Roll 4 better, but I still think that's a good skill to have on this unit. And I wanted to make sure that you guys saw some different variations. B-Dual Flying 4, though, just hurts. That is a tough thing to do. So, looking, we had Elimine, we have Naga. This is a good setup. Like, I'm a fan here. Looking more at Tier 3, though, we have Reginn, and Reginn is in desperate need of a refine, but she's got a lot of good building blocks, so it's something to look forward as you go. If you have this unit merged up, which I'm sure you do, there are some things in the future that can help you. That refine is coming somewhere mid-year. Understand any of these refine estimates are just that, estimates. They should be like plus or minus 3 months or something even larger. But the point is that the refine is coming sooner rather than later. The big thing is Seiðr Shell has some really interesting effects to it and could become more powerful. And Heiðr is, I do like the skill, and Canto 3 is kind of powerful, even though I really don't like the turn 1 through 4, but normally at that point you don't care as much. If we're looking at builds, player phase support is probably where I like her most. The thing is, being able to, for hit and run teams, being able to Canto a unit in and then being able to run away is very powerful. The 3 spaces means most of the time she can get out of range of the opponent. So it's kind of like a Crom Light, whereas Crom can take another action. This unit can just run away. So there is that. Right here, I've got Kagero set up with lethality from Valoria, and I use this team a ton and am absolutely in love with it. As far as enemy phase support, you're going for the snag skills. We've talked about these. These are very powerful, and keep in mind in Astra season, infantry speed tactic is usable because you have fewer infantry mythics. And so that's something you can really look at. 754, we talked about that as low, but I do, Canto 3 in Arena is very powerful and something you can look at. Next up, we have Thorr, and Thorr is another one in desperate need of a refine because they just keep on giving away her skills. We do have low speed and just stacked defense, res, and attack. I like this unit, and I think she will be good again. Right now, she's just struggling a bit. And she does have a lot of good pieces. I'm a little bit worried about Warbreaker, and I'm going to need something more from them on that. But armor effectiveness, you've got essentially the Spendthrift attack, and then you've got guaranteed follow-up and an Omni Lull, which cannot be, that is very, very good. Warbreaker just gives special acceleration within 2, and we have so many feud effects on top of that that sometimes it's not even good for that. Warbreaker is tough right now. Looking at player phase support, this is a similar team to what we just saw. The difference is you can run Gale Force on this unit very well because she has Worldbreaker. As a follow-up unit, you can have a lot of fun with her, and Wings of Mercy 4 makes her a more powerful unit than you might expect. As far as enemy phase support, I think she can work there just fine. You can see I've gone to Allied Axe for the extra drives. That is an option. Understand it's not a huge amount of drives. It's like +4 to defense and res, I believe. So, every little bit can count, but just know that there are different things you can do there. And then defense res ploy because she has high enough res, and speed defense snag 4 is nice because you can swap and then have guard and debuffs put on the enemy. I've got Aegis there just so she can tank. She can take hits down the road while you're running around to get pots. So understand that's what that is. As far as Arena, 756 isn't bad. And aerial maneuvers is a lot of fun. It is tough to discount how fun that skill is and how great that is being able to use that. If you want to use this unit in Arena, I think you should. I think you'll have a lot of fun, even if 756 isn't at just the tip top. I still think she can definitely contribute. We get down to Ashera, and we've got Order Sentence and Orders Restraint, and I don't know what they're going to do with this unit. This unit actually had even like lower speed for the time. When you're talking about a speedy unit, you want every little bit, and she just doesn't quite cut it. If we're looking at the skill itself, you get an in combat attack +5 +X, and X is the total bonuses on allies with the highest within 2 spaces. That is not bad, and adding an extra 24 attack is nice, but as we've seen, you really want true damage right now, or piercing, as opposed to just in combat stats. Order's Restraint, that's to unit allies within 2, you get attack res +6 visible, and then no panic. This is pretty underwhelming. Like, that November cannot come quick enough for this unit. That's when we're looking at a refine, and she needs it badly. As far as what to do with this unit, you can go with the AoE build, and I've got her with Valoria, but understand because she's an infantry unit, there are other ways you can do that. Looking at this unit further though, as a support unit, I mean, we've seen it before, like I sound like a broken record, but Ploy and Sabotage AR or Ruse 4, those are all very good skills though, and help you revamp your units and use them in more ways. Looking at Arena, we've got a score of 754, which is painful, especially because I don't know that she actually kills a lot of things right now. I will say that visible buffs they just abound in that mode, so keep that in mind. Looking at the Astra Mythics in general though, and we've gone over all of these, and looking at the tier list, I wanted to talk about the ups and downs of where these units are going. I really think the tier 0 units, because of the new skills they're getting, are all increasing in value. Altina, we talked about it, but because of the counter disrupt stuff, she is lowering. And Plumeria, I had a hard time with this unit. The reason I have her going up is because they just continue to give flyers better skills. If that continues, it will continue to go up. Right now, I still have her on that trend, but it's possible that we level out or possibly even go down. Seiðr, I have her staying the same right now, which is normally a thing where you're about to go down, but I still like the unit a whole lot. Elimine, the floor has just dropped out. It is very hard to use Elimine right now. Naga is there, and I mean, Naga is fun, but obviously the unit is, while not decreasing in value, is not adding to your team right this second. Gale Force comes along, that changes, but as far as tier 3 goes, we have been getting more Cav skills, so I have Reginn going up, but Thorr, they just continue to make units that are better than her and do her job better, and that is hard to see. Ashera is like Sothis tier. It is tough to use Ashera right now. If you're investing, I would take any of the units in tier 0 and tier 1. Honestly, because of how cheap you can merge up Plumeria, I think it is possible that might be the best merge project of this bunch, but if cost isn't an option, I think Veyle, Ratatoskr, and Heiðr are all excellent units depending on your mode. I do like Heiðr better in Summoner Duels, I like Veyle better in Aether Raids, and Ratatoskr I think is a mix, and I think we have yet to see her ceiling, so understand that I think we have good things coming. Alright, last thing I want to talk about best builds, and I really love the Support Maven build for Reginn. I think this is a lot of fun. I think it is a way to take a unit that is, for all intents and purposes, completely out of date, but because you have her merged up, you have to use her, and I think this is a way to do that. She's still an excellent cleanup unit, and she can help your team quite a bit with this build. We've talked about Altina quite a bit, and I like this unit. I like this build a lot. I think this is fun and is still usable in Summoner Duels now. So that is strange to have a unit that has stayed good for that long. The last little piece here, I love how adaptable Seiðr is, and I think this proves it, and it's why I have this build so high. So quick thanks to the members. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. If you'd like to support the show, you can like, subscribe, or even give us a super chat or become a member. Love all of those. You guys are amazing. Take care, and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.